After 8 years of combat deployments, I sent my family $115,000 for emergencies. Then I discovered I was funding luxury vacations, so I cut them off forever, no mercy ever. I don't usually waste time on this stuff, but I'm stuck on night watch with nothing but my thoughts and figured typing this out might help some other poor bastard avoid getting played like I did. Fair warning, I'm not great with words, so bear with me. I'm 32, male, and enlisted in the Army right after high school. I grew up in a middle-class family in the Midwest, nothing special. Dad worked in manufacturing, and Mom was a part-time receptionist. My sister, Lark, 35, female, was always the golden child, pretty, popular, and got good grades without trying too hard. I was more of the quiet, reserved type, a decent student but never stood out much, except in sports. When I enlisted, it wasn't about running away from home or anything dramatic. I genuinely wanted to serve, and I had my sights set on something challenging, Army Rangers. I made it through basic, then airborne school, and finally Ranger school. One of the hardest things I've ever done, but I earned my tab. For those who don't know military stuff, that's kind of a big deal. My first deployment came about 2 years after I enlisted. Middle East, hot as balls, constantly on edge. I won't go into operational details for obvious reasons, but it was intense. During that time, my parents started having financial troubles. Dad's plant was laying people off, and Mom's hours got cut. They never directly asked for money, but they'd mention things like, might have to sell the house, or not sure how we'll cover the property taxes this year. Being the good son I thought I was, I offered to help. I started sending $800 a month back home. It was a significant chunk of my pay, but I figured I'm living in barracks, eating at the mess hall. What do I need extra cash for? They raised me, so it's definitely the right thing to do. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm on my second deployment. Lark has married this guy, Trent, who's supposedly some hotshot financial consultant. They have their first kid. During one of our weekly satellite calls, Mom mentions how expensive baby stuff is these days and how Lark and Trent are struggling. She casually asks if I could bump up my monthly support to help them out temporarily. I agree to increase it to $1,000. By my third deployment, I'd been promoted a couple of times, so when they hinted at needing more support, I increased, again to $1,200 monthly. Mom would send these heartfelt emails about how my sacrifice was helping the whole family stay afloat and how proud they were of me. Dad occasionally sent awkward but sincere thank you messages. It felt good, like I was taking care of my people, even from thousands of miles away. During those 8 years, I missed too many events. My grandfather's funeral, Lark's wedding, the birth of all 3 of her kids, countless Christmases, Thanksgivings, birthdays, and my best friend Eli's funeral after he wrapped his motorcycle around a tree. That's military life. You accept those sacrifices. But what made it easier was knowing I was still contributing to my family's well-being, that the money I was sending was keeping a roof over my parents' heads and helping them through rough times. Fast forward to 3 months ago, I finally got approved for some extended leave after my 4th deployment. I'd been gone for almost 22 months straight this time, a particularly long stretch, even by Ranger standards. I was excited to finally spend some quality time with my family. My buddy Maddox, who's my cousin and also the only family member who ever sent me care packages, suggested we organize a small homecoming gathering, just family and a few close friends at my parents' house. My mom seemed excited about it on our calls, saying how they'd been waiting years to properly celebrate my service. So I flew back to the States, spent a couple of days at Fort Benning handling paperwork, then headed home. 2 days before the planned gathering, I got a frantic call from my mom. "Cole, honey, something terrible has happened," she said, her voice shaking. "Lark's having serious complications with her pregnancy. The doctors are saying it might be placental abruption. We need to go be with her right away. She might lose the baby." My heart sank. Lark was about 7 months pregnant with her 4th kid, and this sounded serious. "Where are they taking her?" I asked. "She's being transferred to Mayo Clinic. We're driving up tonight to meet them there." "I'm so sorry about your homecoming, sweetheart. I know you must be disappointed." Sure, I was disappointed, but family emergencies happen. My sister's life and her unborn child's life were obviously more important than some dinner. "Don't worry about it, Mom. Go take care of Lark. We can reschedule when things settle down. Keep me posted, okay?" "You're such a good brother," she said. "Oh, before I forget, there might be an issue with this month's transfer. The bank flagged it for some reason. Could you call them and sort it out? We need to cover some expenses for this emergency." I assured her I would. Then I called Maddox to cancel the gathering. "Damn, that sucks," he said. "Want to just do something smaller? A few of the guys from high school are around. We could hit up Ali's tomorrow night instead." I agreed, figuring a low-key night with some old friends was better than sitting alone in a hotel room. The next evening we met up at Ali's. Me, Maddox, and two buddies from high school I hadn't seen in years. We were catching up, sharing stories, giving each other grief like we were 18 again. It felt good, normal, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. A few hours into the night, we were swapping stories about what happened to people from our graduating class. Marcus was mid-sentence about how our valedictorian ended up living in his mom's basement when Maddox, half listening while scrolling through his phone, suddenly let out a low whistle. "Man, those pictures your parents posted look amazing. That infinity pool is sick. Your sister's looking pretty good for being 7 months pregnant too." Now, apart from the fact that Maddox was hitting on my sister while looking at his phone, the conversation screeched to a halt. Jake and Marcus exchanged awkward glances. I felt my ranger training kick in. That immediate shift to tactical awareness when something's not right in your environment. My expression didn't change, but inside, alarm bells were blaring. "What pictures?" I asked, voice deliberately casual. Maddox looked up from his phone, saw my face, and the realization hit him like a bullet. His eyes widened, and he immediately backpedaled. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else's parents, like Dave Hoffman's folks or something." "Your mom and dad. They're not at some resort right now, are they?" Jake and Marcus were suddenly very interested in their drinks, sensing the tension that had instantly materialized. I kept my expression neutral. The same face I'd worn during interrogation training. Never let them see what you're thinking. Inside, though, I felt something cold and heavy settling in my stomach, like I'd swallowed a chunk of ice. "Can I see?" My voice remained steady. Maddox hesitated, eyes darting between me and the phone, like he was deciding whether to defuse a bomb or run from it. Then, with a resigned sigh, he passed me his phone. There on the screen was my mom's Facebook post from exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes ago. A perfectly framed selfie of her and my dad standing in front of an infinity pool that seemed to melt into the ocean beyond. Both were wearing new-looking vacation clothes, sunglasses perched on their heads, skin already showing the first hint of a tan. The location tag read Gran Velas Riviera Maya, Cancun, Mexico. The caption, "Day 2 of our much-needed family vacation. So blessed to have everyone together. Everyone together, except me." I swiped to the next photo with the mechanical precision of clearing a room. There was Lark, very much not in medical distress, not hooked up to monitors at the Mayo Clinic, not suffering from any placental abruption. Instead, she was lounging on a cushioned beach chair, her pregnant belly exposed to the sun, skin gleaming with suntan oil, smiling widely with a virgin pina colada in one hand, her other hand making a peace sign. Trent was next to her in designer swim trunks, sporting a fresh haircut and a watch I recognized as a tag heuer I'd seen in a PX catalog for $30,500. Their 3 kids were building an elaborate sandcastle nearby, supervised by what appeared to be a resort staff member. The third photo was a group shot at a restaurant, some kind of celebration dinner. Everyone was dressed up, glasses raised in a toast, a cake with "Congratulations, Trent." Written on it was centered in the frame. The caption explained that Trent had just signed a new client, worth celebrating in style. The timestamp showed these photos were taken yesterday. There was no emergency, no hospital, no specialists, no medical crisis, no rush to be by Lark's side during a life-threatening complication. They were all on a freaking family vacation in Mexico, a vacation they'd been enjoying while I sat alone in a hotel room, worried about my sister, rescheduling the homecoming I'd waited years for. I handed the phone back to Maddox with the same controlled precision I'd use handling a sensitive explosive. My face remained impassive, but something must have shown in my eyes because the table went dead silent. "Shit, Cole," Maddox finally said, looking mortified. "I had no idea. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you couldn't get leave for the trip or something." Marcus cleared his throat awkwardly. "Your folks said you were tied up with some special training thing. That's why we were so surprised when Maddox said you were coming home." Jake nodded. "Yeah, man, your mom told my mom last month that you couldn't get leave until fall. Said it was classified stuff. So they'd been planning this for at least a month." The realization hit like a breaching charge. They hadn't just made up an emergency to get out of my homecoming. They'd been systematically lying to everyone about my availability to cover their tracks. I took a slow sip of my water, letting the tactical part of my brain take over, the part trained to function under fire. "It's fine," I said finally, my voice neutral. "Let's just enjoy the night." And outwardly, I did. I kept the conversation flowing, laughed at Jake's construction site mishap stories, offered some sanitized war stories that wouldn't give anyone nightmares. I even joined in ribbing Maddox about his CrossFit obsession. First rule of CrossFit, always talk about CrossFit. But behind that carefully maintained facade, my mind was working overtime, like being on surveillance in hostile territory. I was reassessing every interaction I'd had with my family over the past 8 years, re-examining every emergency expense, every tearful call about financial struggles, every guilt trip about how I wasn't around to help with the real family issues. 8 years of deployments, 8 years of sending money home, 8 years of living frugally so they could supposedly keep their heads above water. And all that time, they'd been living a completely different reality than what they'd portrayed to me. When I got back to my hotel that night, I pulled out my laptop and began methodically excavating my family's digital footprint with the same focus I'd used planning a night raid. First, I checked Facebook, scrolling back through months of my mother's posts. The family vacation hadn't been some spontaneous trip, it had been meticulously planned for months. There were comments dating back to February about resort bookings, coordinating time off, shopping for new swimwear. My mom had posted in March, 96 days until our annual beach getaway. "Can't wait," with Lark commenting, "Mom, don't count down, or it feels even further away." Annual. This wasn't a one-off trip, this was a regular family tradition. I pulled up my banking app and began systematically reviewing my statements going back years. The pattern emerged with the clarity of a thermal signature on a cold night. Every May or June, like clockwork, there was always a larger withdrawal requested by my parents, $3,500 to $5,000, always explained away as property taxes, unexpected medical bills, car repairs, or furnace replacement. And there, in each corresponding June or July, were Facebook photos of family vacations, different resorts, different beaches, but the same pattern, the same people, the same lies. I pulled up my email and searched for emergency and messages from my parents. Dozens of results appeared. Medical emergencies, car emergencies, home repair emergencies, tax emergencies. All coincidentally requiring almost exactly the amount that would fund a nice family vacation or, as I was now discovering, private school tuition payments that were due. I leaned back in the hotel chair, trying to process everything. Then I got a text from my mother. "Lark's doing a little better. Doctor says bed rest for a week minimum. Are you checking on that transfer?" I couldn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, though there was a slow, cold fury building inside me like a distant storm, but because I felt like such an idiot, like I'd been providing overwatch for the wrong target the entire time. All those years of believing I was helping keep my aging parents financially stable, of going without so they wouldn't have to, of working extra duty for hazard pay to send home. And in reality, I was bankrolling their vacations, my sister's lifestyle, and their public image as generous grandparents. The next morning, I got another text from Mom. "Lark's doing better, but doctors want to monitor her a few more days. So sorry about your party. Can you check on that transfer? Hospital bills are adding up fast." Ah yes, those expensive hospital bills at the 5-star beach resort must be tough, paying for all those poolside margaritas. I didn't respond to her and decided to take a little field trip to my parents' empty house. I still had a key from before I enlisted. Guess they forgot about that little detail. As I walked in, I noticed mail piled up on the counter, just waiting for someone with trust issues to rifle through it. And let's just call what I found enlightening. Tuition statements for not one, not two, but 3 different private schools, the fancy kind where they probably serve organic lunches on china plates. Combined annual damage, $78,000 for elementary school. Cool. Credit card statements, showing my hard-earned cash was funding summer camps, private violin lessons, designer kid clothes, and whatever the hell competitive equestrian gear is, because every 8-year-old needs a $900 riding helmet, right? But what got me baffled was Mom's budget notebook, with a special section labeled Cole's contribution, with detailed plans for my money, and obviously none of it involved keeping the lights on or saving their house. 8 years, $115,000. Also, my sister's family could play lifestyles of the rich and famous while I was living my best life in a desert tent, eating military rations that expired during the Bush administration. Then I found a thank you card from Lark. "Mom and Dad, thanks for always making sure the kids get the best education possible. We couldn't do this without you both sacrificing so much for us." Apparently, she had no idea I was the actual sacrificial lamb. Mom and Dad were taking full credit for my financial contributions. Genius move, really. Why tell your daughter you're mooching off your son when you can just pretend to be generous grandparents instead? I left the house and drove straight to my bank, changed all my account information, passwords, and security questions, and put a freeze on any transactions over $100. Then I canceled the automatic transfer to my parents' account. That evening, my mom called again. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message sounding concerned, asking why I hadn't responded to her texts and if I'd fixed the transfer issue. I texted back one line, coming back to town next weekend. Need to see everyone. Dinner at your place Sunday at 6 p.m. Important family matters to discuss. She tried to wiggle out of it, saying Lark might still need them at the hospital. I was firm Sunday 6 p.m. Everyone needs to be there. Finally, she agreed.
That gave me a week to prepare.
I used the time to get my thoughts in order and gather more evidence. I found social media posts going back years, showing family vacations, expensive gifts, and fancy dinners, all happening while I was deployed, and sending money to keep the lights on. I compiled it all into a folder on my phone. When Sunday arrived, I showed up at exactly 6 p.m., wearing my civilian clothes but with my Ranger tab pin on my jacket lapel, a small reminder of who I was and what I'd been doing while they were living it up. I arrived exactly at 1800 hours, military punctuality that had become second nature. When I walked in, everyone was already there, my parents, Lark, Trent, and their 3 kids, Aiden, 8, Chloe, 6, and Zoe, 4. They were dressed casually but well, the kind of casual that actually costs serious money. No visible traces of their recent beach vacation, except the lingering tans. The atmosphere was thick with tension. They knew something was up but weren't sure exactly what I knew or how I knew it. My mom rushed forward, hugging me a little too tightly, her designer perfume overwhelming. "Cole, honey, we've missed you so much." Her voice had that high, slightly theatrical quality she used when lying. "How was your trip home? I'm so sorry about the homecoming party." Lark's feeling much better now, thank goodness. Dad hung back, offering a stiff handshake and an awkward shoulder pat. "Good to see you, son. You're looking fit." Lark gave a small wave from across the room, one hand resting protectively on her pregnant belly like it was a shield. "Hey, big brother." Trent stepped forward with forced heartiness. "The man of the hour. Great to finally see you, finally." I'd been back in town for nearly a week, supposedly while his wife was in a medical crisis. The kids stared at me with undisguised curiosity. They barely knew me, just the uncle who appeared in rare photos on the fridge and sent presents at Christmas. I gave them all a neutral smile, the same one I'd perfected during negotiations with tribal elders, polite, unreadable. "Let's eat first," I said calmly. "Then we can talk." Dinner was awkward. My parents kept trying to steer the conversation towards safe topics. The kids talked about their schools, their activities, their friends. Lark mentioned her pregnancy and how excited they were for the new baby. Not a word about any medical emergency or hospital stay. As my mom brought out dessert, I decided it was time. "So, how was Cancun?" I asked casually. The room went dead silent. My mom froze mid-step, dessert plates in hand. "What?" my dad stammered. "Oh, you don't know?" I said, pulling out my phone. "The resort, the infinity pool, the beach, looks amazing in these pictures." I turned my phone around to show them the Facebook photos I'd saved. My mom's face went white. "Cole, honey," she started, "I can explain." "No need," I cut her off, still keeping my voice level. "I think I understand perfectly." I swiped to the next photo on my phone, the tuition statements. "You told me Lark was having pregnancy complications. A life or death situation, you said. But somehow she managed to recover just fine while doing virgin pina coladas on the beach." Lark looked confused, then glanced at our parents. "What?" "Mom told me Cole couldn't make it home until next month because of some special training, and there it was. They'd been playing both sides." "Oh, it gets better," I said, swiping to the budget notebook photos. "For 8 years I've been sending money home because you two," I looked at my parents, "you couldn't make ends meet. Turns out you've been using my combat pay to send my niece and nephews to private school." Trent shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, we didn't know." "Save it," I said. "I'm not blaming the kids, they deserve a good education. What I have a problem with is being lied to for nearly a decade." My mom started crying. Those manipulative tears I'd seen work on my dad 1,000 times. "Thank God I'm not like him. We just wanted to help Lark's family." "You were away. You don't understand what family needs." "Don't I?" I said, my voice dropping. "Don't try to lecture me about family responsibility. I've been sending 60% of my income home while living in barracks and combat zones. I missed my best friend's funeral because I was deployed. I've watched brothers die beside me. So don't tell me I don't understand sacrifice." Lark, always quick to play victim, jumped in. "Well, if you're so worried about money, maybe you should have gotten a real job instead of playing soldier all these years." The room went dead silent again. Even her kids looked shocked. I just smiled. "And there it is, playing soldier. That's what you think I've been doing." I stood up calmly, nothing rushed, just straightened myself and looked at them without giving anything away. The years of training had made this kind of self-control second nature. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, voice level but firm, the same tone I'd use briefing my squad before a mission. "The money stops today, all of it. I've already canceled the transfers and put security protocols on my accounts. If anyone tries to access my finances again, I'll report it as fraud to both the bank and the military police." The mention of military police made my dad flinch. He knew what that meant. Official investigation, potential criminal charges. "You've had approximately $115,000 of my money over 8 years. Consider that your severance package." My dad finally spoke up, his voice rising. "Son, you can't just cut us off like this. The kid's tuition is not my responsibility." I cut him off. "Never was, never should have been. Trent here makes 6 figures when he's actually working instead of playing pretend finance guru. Your tax records from 2 years ago show $127,000 before your commission structure changed. Figure it out yourselves." Trent's face went pale. He hadn't expected me to know the specifics of his income fluctuations. Lark's expression morphed from shock to rage in seconds, like watching a flashbang detonate. "You selfish prick," she spat, one hand protectively on her belly, the other pointing at me accusingly. "My kids are family. What are they supposed to? You know how competitive college admissions are these days. They need every advantage." I looked her dead in the eyes. "The same thing I did, go to public school." Lark flinched as if I'd actually struck her. The idea of public education for her precious offspring was apparently more horrifying than lying to and exploiting her brother for almost a decade. Then everything went to hell. Mom started crying dramatically, Dad muttered something about disowning me, and Lark went off about family loyalty while her kids sat there, looking confused and scared by all the yelling. But the real surprise came when my mom, desperate to regain control, blurted out, "Lark, honey, calm down. We'll figure something out. We always do. Cole's money was just helping us cover what your father and I have been giving you all these years," and that's when Lark's expression changed from anger to confusion. "What do you mean, Cole's money?" My mom realized her mistake too late. The truth was out. "You told me you were helping us from your retirement savings," Lark said slowly. "You said you were making sacrifices for us." "We were," my mom insisted. "We were managing everything, making sure everyone was taken care of, by using my brother's money without telling me." Lark's voice had gone ice cold, "making me believe you were the generous ones while he was overseas getting shot at." For a brief moment, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I mean, she'd been played, too, in a different way. Trent stood up, looking uncomfortable. "We should go. Kids, get your things." As they were leaving, Lark stopped in front of me. No tearful apology, no dramatic reconciliation, just a cold, hard stare. "You should have told me years ago," she said. "Would it have made a difference?" I asked. She didn't answer, just walked out with her family. My parents tried damage control immediately. My dad brought up their age, their health problems, how they'd raised me. All the usual guilt trips. My mom switched between crying and anger, saying I was destroying the family. I just shrugged. "The family was destroyed the moment you decided to use me as your personal ATM and lie about it for 8 years. Before I left, I took a picture of the tuition statements with my name on them and held up my phone one more time. If either of you contact my command with sob stories or try to turn the extended family against me, these go public to everyone. I'm done being the secret cash cow." That was the confrontation, but it wasn't the end of the story. The next day, my CO called me. Somehow, my mom had found his number and called the base. Told him I was having a mental breakdown and needed a psych evaluation, that I was threatening the family, and they feared for their safety. Fortunately, my CO is a solid guy who's known me for years. He called to give me a heads up, not because he believed her. I explained the situation briefly, and he just said, "Family, huh? Take care of it and be back by the 15th. Then the text messages started. First from my dad, "Your mother is devastated. Is this how we raised you to treat family? After everything we've done for you." Then from extended family members I barely spoke to, "Heard you're having a rough time adjusting back to civilian life. Your parents are worried about you. Maybe talk to someone." Then from Lark, "The kids are asking about their Uncle Cole. Aiden's school is threatening to drop him if the tuition payment doesn't clear. Is that what you want, to punish an 8-year-old? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I drove to Maddox's place. He'd always been straight, with me, and I needed someone to talk to who wasn't trying to manipulate me. "Dude, that's messed up," he said after I explained everything. "I always wondered how Trent and Lark afforded all that stuff. His business is mostly smoke and mirrors. Half the people he's consulted for ended up losing money." "Did you know about the money I was sending home?" I asked. He shook his head. "No way. Aunt Lisa just said they were comfortable because of good investments. I figured Uncle Rick's union pension was better than most. We spent the evening catching up properly. Turns out, Maddox had gotten divorced last year after finding out his wife was cheating with her CrossFit instructor. He was also the only one who'd been sending me updates about what was really happening back home, though even he hadn't known the full financial situation. "What are you going to do now?" he asked as I was leaving. "Focus on my career, maybe look at buying a place near base. I've got a chunk of savings now that I'm not sending it all to them. They're going to keep coming at you," he warned. Aunt Lisa doesn't give up easily. And he was right. 3 days later, my mom showed up at my hotel. No idea how she found out where I was staying. The front desk called my room. "Sir, there's a woman in the lobby claiming to be your mother. She seems upset." I could have refused to see her. Part of me wanted to, but I figured it was better to deal with this head-on than let it fester. When I got to the lobby, she was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Classic mom manipulation tactic. Appear vulnerable in a public place so I couldn't make a scene. I sat down across from her. "How did you find me?" "I called all the hotels in town," she said. "A mother knows these things." I waited, saying nothing. "Cole, honey, I know you're upset. We should have been more transparent about how we were using your help." "My help was based on lies," I said. "You told me you needed money for basic expenses, that you might lose the house. Instead, you were using it to send Lark's kids to private schools that cost more than most people's college tuition." She leaned forward. "You've always been so independent, so self-sufficient. Lark's family needs more support. Her husband, his business has been struggling for years. Those children need stability, advantages. And you decided I should provide that without even asking me? Would you have said yes if we had?" She challenged. I thought about it, maybe for a reasonable amount, for actual necessities, but I deserve the choice. She sighed. "Well, your decision has consequences. Aiden's school is threatening to expel him if the tuition isn't paid by Friday. Chloe might lose her spot on the competitive gymnastics team. Is that what you want, to punish innocent children? Classic guilt trip. Make me responsible for outcomes that were never my obligation in the first place." I told her, "Those are Trent and Lark's problems to solve, not mine, and definitely not by emotionally blackmailing me. It's not blackmail to expect family to help family. Help, yes. Be exploited, no." She tried a different angle. "Your father's blood pressure has been through the roof since your episode. The doctor's concerned about his heart. Is this stress worth risking his health over?" I almost laughed. "Wow, pulling out all the stops, aren't you? First the kids, now Dad's health. What's next? The family dog needs expensive surgery." Her face hardened. The vulnerable act dropped instantly. "You've changed, Cole. The military has made you cold, uncaring." "No," I corrected her. "Finding out my family has been lying to me and stealing from me for 8 years made me reevaluate who deserves my trust and support." "Stealing? It wasn't stealing. You offered to help. I offered to help you based on specific needs you claim to have, not to fund Lark's upper-middle-class fantasy lifestyle." She stood up, gathering her purse. "I can see this conversation is pointless. Your father was right. You've become selfish. When you're ready to be part of this family again, you know where to find us." "I do," I agreed. "Probably at another resort, once you find someone else to foot the bill." She left without another word. I sat there for a while, feeling strangely calm. For the first time in years, I felt like I was seeing my family clearly. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Trent, Lark's husband. "Cole. Hey, it's Trent. Got a minute?" I was curious enough to hear him out. "I'm listening." "Look, man, I wanted to apologize. I genuinely had no idea you were the one financing the kids' schools all these years. Lisa and Rick always told us they had it covered through investments and retirement accounts. Yeah, and you never questioned how two people with modest incomes could afford $78,000 a year in private school tuition?" I asked. He sighed. "I should have. Things haven't been great with my business the last few years. We've been living beyond our means, and your parents' help made it possible to maintain appearances. I see now how messed up that was." "What does Lark say about all this?" "She's processing, embarrassed, angry, mostly at your parents, but also at herself for not asking more questions. The kids are upset about potentially changing schools." "Not my problem," I said, though with less edge than I'd used with my mom. I know, I'm not calling to ask for money, just wanted you to know that not all of us were in on the deception. I've already enrolled Aiden in the local public school for next semester. The girls will follow once this year's done. I didn't know whether to believe him or not. What does Lark think about that? She's not thrilled, but she's starting to realize we've been living in a financial fantasy. I've got some promising clients lined up, but it'll take time to get back on solid ground. Good luck with that, I said, not unkindly. Thanks. And Cole, for what it's worth, I've always respected what you do. That playing soldier comment Lark made, she was just lashing out. She doesn't really think that. I wasn't so sure, but I appreciated the gesture. Take care of your family, Trent. The right way this time. After hanging up, I wondered if I was being too hard on Lark. She'd been played too, in her way. But then I remembered her calling me selfish and attacking my career. Some things just stick with you. 2 weeks later, I was back on base. Life went back to normal, training, paperwork, PT, more training. I slept better, knowing I wasn't stressing about their next emergency expense. Maddox kept me in the loop. My parents were telling everyone I had PTSD and cut them off during a breakdown. They played the victim card. My mom even cried about how the war changed him to anyone who'd listen. Some relatives bought it, but others got suspicious when Maddox started asking how my sister's kids afforded those fancy schools on my parents' modest income. My mom tried calling my CO, claiming I owed them money. He shut that down fast and suggested I consider a restraining order. My dad sent a long email about family duty and how they'd plan to pay me back in their will. I didn't bother responding. Lark stayed quiet. Through Maddox's social media, I saw her kids had changed schools. She posted less about vacations and more about home-cooked meals and park outings, a reality check. 3 months later, I got a package with a letter from Aiden. Classic manipulation move, using a kid as the messenger. He wrote about his new school without the swimming pool, how his mom cries when she thinks they're asleep, and how they're making sacrifices now. The part about maybe if we're good, you'll help us again someday made it obvious this wasn't just an 8-year-old's random thoughts. I kept the drawing but didn't respond. The contact attempts slowed down after 6 months. Maddox said they'd canceled their annual beach vacation. My mom took a full-time job, and Dad was thinking about working part-time at the hardware store. I used my extra cash to invest in myself, cybersecurity courses, a small condo near base. I started dating a physical therapist from the VA hospital. Last week, my dad sent a handwritten letter, actually owning up to their mistakes. They downsized, Mom was working full-time, and they were all living within their means. Maddox confirmed it was true. I sent a short email acknowledging his honesty, but making it clear I wasn't ready for family dinners. Honestly, after all this, I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is set boundaries and stop enabling bad behavior. My family's probably healthier now, even if they don't see it. I definitely am. So, basically, folks, if you're being used as a family ATM, ask yourself, am I helping or enabling? What would happen if I said no for once?